So today we'll be focusing on loops, for loops specifically. And so just to do a quick review, last week or 2 weeks ago, sorry, we went over conditional statements. And so what a conditional statement is, it's a function that performs a certain action depending on whether a value is true or false. And in Python, there are three different types of conditionals. There's an if, else, and elif. So if we go back to last week's, remove this, to last week's notebook, or week 2's notebook, you could see it here. This one has the answers. Also, if you do want some more information on conditionals, I added some links where you would be able to read it and some practice problems. So where you have it is the if statement. The way it's formatted, you would have the if statement. Then you would have whatever condition you want. So let's just say if num right here, this variable is less than 5, then then you write the colon here, and then you would print the number is less than 5. So if I ran it, it would run because num, which is equal to 2, is less than 5. However, if we change it to a value of 7, then it wouldn't run because the condition that you set is not true. So you can mostly use it if you're adding or if you're doing user input or anything like that. It's very helpful for that. You could also add in, it's not represented in this one. Okay, let me pull up the live code notebook. It probably has more examples. Sorry, let me just pull it up real quick. Sorry, everything's moving so slow. Okay, you know what? It's taking a while for Google Slides to load, so I guess I'll just explain what's on this article over here. And so you can read it more in depth. I'll just go over the examples that they put in here quickly. So as you say, if the number here is positive or greater than zero, then it will be printed out. But if num is a negative number, then it won't be printed out. So you can, or yeah, if num is greater than 0, then you'll print num is a positive number. And so when it printed out, it prints out that this one prints out 3. Over here, it prints out because it's positive. But you see where it says num is equals -1, then it's not printed out. It just gets skipped. You can also have an if else statement. So if the condition in the if over here is not true, or if it's false, then what it will do, the program will just default over to the else statement. And so it would just print out the else statement instead. However, if the condition in the if statement is true, then it would just print out the if statement and it will work fine. So and then you could also add in elif. So an elif is kind of to add in multiple conditions. So let's just say if I had this one here, let's just say I had -1 first. If -1 didn't work, okay, you know what? Let me just type it out because I feel like it's hard to explain. So let's just say num equals, okay, so we'll put 3 different numbers. Num1 equals 3, num2 equals -1, num3 equals, let's just say 2. Okay, so let's just say if we had a condition, if num1 is greater than 0, you want print it's a positive number. And if I run it now,
I think you need to put greater to 0.
yeah, sorry, greater than 0, then it prints it's a positive number. However, let's just say it wasn't. If it was -2, then it just would not produce an output. Now, if we wanted to check all 3 numbers here and keep going until we do find a positive number, then you can add in an elif statement. So elif num2 is greater than 0, print it's a positive number. Still doesn't produce an output because it's negative. Now, let's just say we didn't have number 3. So we went through all of it and we just want to skip to the end of the loop since there's nothing there. And else is kind of like a final stop because you can add in as many elifs as you want, as many conditions as you want. If none of them are true, then it will just automatically resort to those else, which will just print no positive numbers. So skip all the way there. However, if there is one before it would go to the else, it would print here first. You understand it?
A quick question. Let's say we have 50 numbers that we want to look through. Instead of typing in number 1, number 2, number 3, etc., is there a function that would look through all of them?
Yeah, that's what we're going over today, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's important to understand conditional first because conditionals are kind of essential when writing for loops. So that's why. Okay, so today we'll be going over a for loop. And so what a for loop does, it repeats the same action over and over. So either for multiple rows in a data set, items in a list, or it could also check for characters in a string. So you could also see some, so the way it works, kind of how the syntax is broken down for something, whether it's a certain value or if you're looking for a certain character, like for example, if you're looking for a certain letter or a certain, or something's greater than something in something that's iterable. So it would have to be something in a list or in a data set, then you would perform a certain function. All right, so let's just say, for example, here, you would have your list right here, and it's a small data set of different numbers. And say, if you say for I, or for each individual item in num list, you'll print I, right? You'll see over here for I in num list. So what it will print out, it will print out each individual one. So it will first go 7, then 3, 1, 6, 8, 2. So instead of having to print out num list and indexing into the list every single time to print out something, like you said earlier, it would just be easier to use a for loop because it would simplify that process. Okay. So even here too, if it could even work with one item. So let's just say, or you could also use it for strings as well, sorry. So if you wanted to print out each individual letter in a string. So what you could do is for I, for each item or individual item or each individual letter in my string, which in this case, my string is equal to earthquakes, it will print I. So let's just say we copy and paste that into Google Colab right now. Let me just create a new live coding notebook. Yeah, so we just copy and pasted that in. So my string earthquakes for I, and my string we print I. Let me try it with a single one instead. Yeah. So you see, it prints out each individual letter. Right. So if we went back to the example from earlier, which tab was it? I'm so sorry, I have a million different tabs open. You know what? I'll just write it out again. Okay, so let's just say going back to the example we're doing earlier with the conditionals. So let's just say we created our own num list again, and you could say equal -1, 2, 4, -10, 9, 6. So you can do for I. And just a side note, it doesn't have to be I specifically. This is just a common notation in Python, just because item is just easier to remember. But you could write out item, you could put number as well. So for number in num list. And you can also add in conditionals underneath the for loop. You just need to add a tab in, make sure it's tabbed in or nested in to make sure it's underneath that for loop. So let's just say if number is greater than 0, print it's a positive number. And you see it prints it for each positive number. But if you can also add in an else statement for each one, else print it's not a positive number. So you see for each individual one, it adds in it's not a positive, it's positive, it's not a positive. Any questions?
To add to this, if I wanted to show the program to show first the -1 and then say it's not a positive number, how would I embed that?
Yeah. So you could just do it by just printing out the variable itself. So you could just add number plus okay. How do you do it? Oh, it's integer. That's why. Okay. So you could say print number You could also do it in separate ones. Print number. You can add in as many print statements as you want for now. Print number. It's not a positive number. Why isn't it working? Oh. Oh my gosh, how to forget this? Okay. So you could have it, the number there, right? But okay, I understand why. I got confused myself for a second. So the reason why it's not printing the negative one because it's not true in this statement, but you could just add print number on top of it. Print number, and it'll show -1 is not a positive number, 2 is a positive number. That answer your question?
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Adam, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, so if you want, we could also do another example. All right, so let me just get your notebook. Let me just pull it up real quick and I'll send it out. Sorry, my computer's moving slow. I cannot find it. Okay, let me just try this. I'll just send you the Google Drive link because it's still not allowing me to share a file. Sorry about that. Okay, I just sent the link in a chat. And you guys remember how to import it into Google Colab from there, right? Or do you need me to review how to do it?
It already sends us to Google Collab.
All right. I'll also send you some additional readings if you do want to read more on for loops. Oh, I just realized it excluded one of the exercise or the practice problems I added in there. So I'll just add it in the chat.
Could you show us on the screen the presentation so that we can see the functions?
Sure. Okay. How much are they showing the answers? Here, you can see it, and I'll probably pause my screen so it will just be stuck on this. Is that fine?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Just let me know when you guys are finished, okay? Also, if you do want to read more about for loops, I linked some websites or articles you could read to if you want to do some more review, and they also have some extra practice problems in them as well. Since there's only a couple minutes left, I'll probably start going over the answers now. So would anyone be able to walk me through number one? Or how you answered number one? So first, I'll just create the list. So if you have num list equals.
Could you let me share my screen?
Yeah.
You disabled it.
Okay, let me fix that.
Wait,
All right, you can do it now.
here. I did for number one, I did this. It made it in parentheses, so I tried this one and it worked.
All right, thank you. And I also saw Adam took a different approach, but both work.
He was my second one
All right.
for red, blue, green, black.
Yep, that works. All right.
And I didn't do the rest yet.
All right. Adam, did you finish the last two? Did you do numbers 3 and 4 or? All right. So do you guys want me to go over it or do you want me to wait a couple more minutes?
Can you go over it?
All right. So let me share my screen again. Okay. So it says multiply each positive number by 2 in the following list. So let me just write out the list. 3, 4, -6, 10, 18, 34. So to do this in a for loop, so for integer in num list, colon. So I said if I is greater than 0, colon, print I times 2.
Oh,
That's it.
so that's what I was missing. I did just ×2 instead of putting print and parentheses. That's why it wasn't working.
Yes, so you just have to make sure you
Yeah.
add that in. All right. Anyone have any questions? Any other questions? Okay. And the last one, the cat jumped over the dog. So in order to do this one's actually pretty straightforward compared, like, I think sometimes it's just like, you just need to not overthink it. It's more straightforward than you think.
Yes.
So let's just say we have a string, the cat jumped over the dog. So it says for item in string, or no, that might not be best. So I'll just call it sentence instead. So for item in sentence, print I, and it prints out every single letter.
Well,
Yeah.
I have a question. Is
Mhm.
the recording of this going to be accessible?
Yes.
Okay.
And also the notebooks too. I also have one with all of the answers
Okay.
listed in. I did previously.
I think
So,
I'm
yeah.
going to be reviewing the notebook.
Yeah, that's fine. And also, like I said, you could also read over those articles, look up different YouTube videos if you like. They'll go more in depth about them as well, and so you could know or like learn more about for loops, because it is a pretty helpful concept in Python. So yeah.
So once again, could you show us where the articles are?
The articles I just linked in the chat. I'll also be adding them up here. I'll also add them in the notebook, so when you do receive it from Kinga, you'll also have it in here.
Okay.
So I'll do it right now before I forget. What I'm saying keeps like glitching. And the other one I linked in the chat. I closed the tab already. All right, let me just get it. Let me just make sure. All right, so that's it for today. Thank you for joining me. And later on, if you emailed the foundation email, or you could also look on the website the recording will be available on there, and you need to make sure you need to email if you do want a copy of notebooks. Let me just put the email. If you do want a copy of the notebooks, you just office@citenf.org. You could just email them just saying you need a copy of the Python recordings, and Kinga will send it to you. All right. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a good week, and I'll see everybody next week.